Map of Canada is a significant initiative by Esri Canada that fosters community engagement and enhances the quality of mapping experiences, making it a source of great pride for all of us.
Today, we're joined by Amanda Hunter, a technical solutions specialist on the Community Map of Canada team, who's joining us today for a really important anniversary in the community maps. Thank you for joining us and celebrating the 500th publication of the Basemap.
Thanks for having me.
We're really excited to have you here today, but not everybody really knows about the Community Map of Canada. So maybe you could start us off by sort of telling us what it is and what are the main objectives of your team and what you're working on.
Sure. So the Community Map of Canada is a program hosted and facilitated by Esri Canada. And sort of the idea of it is to create a national base map of the entire country, which sources Canadian data to inform that base map. And we like to sort of sometimes think of it as like a little puzzle piece, and every community is that missing piece. And when we get all of the pieces together, we have a base map that the entire country can really make use of and utilize, and every piece is equally important as well. Nobody wants a puzzle with any missing pieces.
Nobody wants that missing piece of that puzzle. That is absolutely true. So I use the base map all the time, and there's lots of different types of data that's included in that base map. So just for our listeners, what types of geographic data can contributors provide to the community map, and how frequently are they updated?
Well, that's a great question. So we have many different layers that you can contribute, and it includes core layers such as building footprints, roads, address points, and then it can kind of go into cadastral. It can go into your parks and your municipal boundaries. This is a sort of a program that you can also grow into as a municipality. So if you don't have certain layers, you don't have to worry. You can sort of add them later as you go. And the idea is obviously the more data that you contribute, the more beautiful your community ends up looking.
Mm-hmm. And how often is that updated? Like, how often do you do the updates to the base map?
So all of our communities are essentially pinged daily for updates, and then those updates are published publicly to the base map essentially every 72 hours, which is an incredible frequency of updates. It's really quite powerful, and the result is really that the base map that you see is really an accurate representation of that community.
Mm-hmm. That's really frequent. That's really impressive. But with that kind of high level of frequency, how do you I know you mentioned accuracy, but how do you ensure that the data is accurate? Is that something that your team works on, or is that from the contributors? Like, how do you know that the quality of the data is up to standard that's contributed?
Yeah, so that's a great question as well. All of the data that is contributed to the Community Map of Canada program is contributed exclusively from the authorities of that data. So this includes all levels of government, municipal, regional, counties, provinces, as well as Indigenous communities, as well as port and transit authorities and universities. And so sort of the concept being that they are the ones that are the authorities of that data. And if any changes need to be made to that data, they are the ones that change the data. We don't actually make those changes ourselves, which results in sort of that integrity, that data integrity that is sort of on the authority to make those changes. However, because of the way that we are structured as a team, as a department, every community has a specific analyst as well as a few other supporting teammates that allow for any feedback to be really readily received. So if a municipality does have a question or does have feedback to ask the Community Map of Canada team, there are real people with real faces there to sort of respond and take that feedback and work together. But any changes that get made those changes are made by the municipalities themselves or the governments themselves, not by the Community Map of Canada team.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. So there are a whole bunch of communities and organizations that participate in the community map at the moment, right? Um, I'm just curious, what are the benefits for those organizations and for those communities to be a part of the program?
So I think one of the there's so many.
Yeah, I'm sure there are. Yeah.
And there's different benefits from, first of all, using the base map, and then there's also benefits to being part of the Community Map of Canada program. So, as a product, the base map is, first of all, Canadian, with Canadian content. So if you have to choose a base map, then it makes sense to be selecting a base map that is Canadian. But on top of that, if you are working with a team with multiple departments and you're sending out base maps to, let's say, your planning team, and they're making adjustments, and then perhaps you have duplication errors or you have inconsistencies across your departments. So this really clarifies your interdepartmental inconsistencies, and it kind of allows you to have this one foundational layer of truth. You have the one base map that everyone can jump off from, everyone can make use of, and everyone can trust, because it's your data that's informing that base map. So that's kind of one major benefit. Obviously, there are also, since Esri Canada is the one that is hosting those data layers, you're also reducing your caching as well as your hosting credits.
Mhm.
So there are those kind of very direct benefits. But on the side of being part of the Community Map of Canada program, there are also benefits of being, first of all, linked to a community of over 400 communities right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Community Map of Canada also really works hard to facilitate learning, better practices sharing, and events that are of benefit to its members. So we do often run these events that bring, let's say, thought leaders or people who have interesting things to say. We'll put them in front of our communities. We'll invite everyone to come, and then there's a great opportunity to sort of network with your GIS professionals from all over the country virtually. And share better practices, learn more. The Community Map of Canada team as well is more than happy to connect with solutions to our teams or to communities, depending on what new projects they would like to learn about, and then we are able to connect them to resources, to webinars, to whatever they need. So there's a lot of support with being part of this community, and we really like to highlight the aspect that the Community Map of Canada is first and foremost a community. So
Mm-hmm.
being part of it, there is a lot of information sharing and a lot of that kind of community networking building aspect to it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the community aspect sounds like a really great and sort of like maybe overlooked sometimes benefit of what you guys are doing. I know since we were just all together as in our GIS community at Esri Canada, you really benefit from having those connections with other people and being able to work with others. So it's really great to have that with the Community Map of Canada. And since we're talking about these benefits, I'm wondering if you could share any examples of any sort of success stories that you've seen for people who have, been participating in this program.
Absolutely. So I guess I'll kind of give a couple different use cases, and you can sort of pick and choose what you like. But
Mm-hmm.
there's one community. I guess Fanshawe College is a great example, which is not our sort of universities and colleges are sort of not our most biggest contributors, but it's really important. So they contributed campus data to the Community Map of Canada that the municipalities did not have. And so when that data was represented on the base map, first of all, their campus security and campus planning were really kind of more properly encapsulated. So that resulted in their sort of their GIS and their mapping being a little bit more safer, as well as being more properly represented on the base map. So so they were quite happy about that. Another really good example would be recently we had actually a guest speaker at one of our events, which is um, the community of Saint-Hyacinthe, which is in Quebec, and they were doing all PDF maps. And it was tedious and brutal. And, they wanted to show their public maps that were representative of all the great work they're doing, but none of it was dynamic and none of it was really online. So when they started contributing to the Community Map of Canada, they went from sort of zero to hero, in the sense they went from PDF to their web maps with the base map that actually is their community, and then they're able to sort of show their stakeholders and their public all of sort of the great work that they're doing from there. And then they built out a hub site with showing all of their maps, and it just kind of exploded from there. So they're sort of a little bit of a hero for us in the sense that they really kind of, once they were in, they they just had so many more resources freed up, and they were able to do so much more once they didn't have to build and maintain a base map themselves.
I love hearing stories like that. People just discovering how you could take those PDF maps and being able to evolve it and put it on the web and take advantage of all that authoritative data. That's really incredible to hear. Um, so I'm really curious to know how you envision where the community map of Canada is going. So, do you have any indications in your mind of the long term goals? Where do you see this going in the long term?
Yeah, I think the idea here is that um, the community map of Canada is meant to be a map for for the people by the people. Not to
Yeah,
say it like
yeah.
that, but so it makes sense. In my opinion, sort of, it would be amazing to have the community map of Canada being the default base map that all Canadian communities or Canadian organizations are sort of choosing as their sort of starting point for the maps they're building out. It makes sense for them to do that, and it also makes sense for their communities to be actually accurately represented in whatever projects that they're doing. So long-term goals are to sort of obviously have that kind of default there, that everyone is aware of, that these base maps actually exist, because that's usually one big hurdle. But then there are other sort of exciting little, I guess, side side quests that we're on. One of them being, a more accessible base map, a lot more inclusive. Obviously, the inclusivity of the data is very important to us. I know that we would love to have more Indigenous communities being represented properly on the base maps with Indigenous syllabics. But also, when we talk about accessibility, the idea of putting out, let's say, base map styles that are that are inclusive to those who have disabilities, or are not necessarily able to see different colors and things like that. So I know that overall, as a community, we're constantly, yes, trying to be more inclusive as well of everyone who can make use of the base map.
Sounds like a fantastic long-term goal, and I'm really excited to see as you guys keep progressing towards that. Really big things happening in the community map of Canada, and it's always exciting to see what you're doing next. For any of our listeners, though, who are not part of those about 400 contributors who are listening today, and they maybe want to get involved, what can they do to become a part of this program and to participate in the community map of Canada?
Yeah, all you have to do is call us,
Yeah.
reach out, and the sort of the process for kind of being included is that we love to have kind of conversations about what your needs are as a community, what you're struggling with, where we can sort of help you, and from there we essentially have sort of an onboarding process that involves meeting your analyst, and consulting, and sort of sending the data at the end of the day. And I guess it's a sort of there are a few different ways that you can kind of contribute data, whether it be REST services, or whether it be via your Open Data Hub, or whether it be via sort of a map package. And we're all there to support that sort of process, myself included. And so the process is very easy. We really do try to emphasize the fact that even though we update our data every 72 hours, you don't have to necessarily update your data. But in sort of in keeping with this sort of this NG911 that's coming up, and all of these things, it makes sense for us to all be emphasizing the frequency of updates and the accuracy of the data. And so being part of this program is meant to be very easy and very inclusive. And so we're here to support you in that 100%.
That's amazing, and yeah, and thank you for joining us for the conversation. I feel a lot more knowledge in the community map program, so we really appreciate your time. But we always like to wrap up our conversations by allowing you to share three takeaways about our conversation. So, what are three takeaways that our listeners should know about?
I would say that the Community Map of Canada is a real snapshot of Canadian communities in real time. And so we don't, so obviously being involved in it is a great way to kind of have a very accurate reflection of your community, but we don't change your data. And I know that a lot of communities that are a little bit uneasy about those kind of topics feel very assured with that fact coming up. And the second thing as well is that we don't make your data available for download. It is baked into our vector tiles. It's baked into our base map. It is there for everyone to use very, very easily. And we're here to sort of to listen as well to our communities as we go forward.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Amanda, for joining us today here on the Spatial Report podcast. And yeah, please discover more with our Community Map of Canada base map. Start using those in your maps.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Thank you very much. That was Amanda Hunter. She is a technical solution specialist with the Community Map of Canada program at Esri Canada, and she joined us today from Oakville, Ontario.